Breaking news off the top, a fire at the drug and laboratory disposal plant in downtown Plainwell. Right now, we know that no one is hurt, but there is a small evacuation in the area immediately surrounding that plant. This is all happening at the facility on Broad Street. The company deals with the disposal of medicines and chemicals. We broke into programming when we first found out about the possible risk to public safety. Our team has been on the scene ever since, getting a lot better picture of what's going on. 24-Hour News 8's Marley Ginter is live, focusing on the plant's past. But we do want to start with Mark Thompson live on the scene with what's happening right now. And what led up to this, Mark?
Well, Brian, right now this fire is contained. We're about 300 yards away from the facility. You can see it just behind that blue building behind me. There was some smoke billowing up just a few moments ago, and they are putting water on some hot spots. No injuries to report, but as you mentioned, several residents northeast of this plant have been evacuated as a precaution and told to go to Plainwell High School. Other residents in the area, in the nearby surrounding area to this facility, have been told to shut their windows and their doors because there is a concern for hazardous materials out here. Now, this plant does transport, store, and dispose of all types of chemical waste, from academic, commercial, and medical to household as well. But the main concern right now is for residents. We spoke with one a short time ago who said that he heard explosions when this first broke out.
I heard the 4 explosions sitting on my front porch over here, and I thought it was a construction. And then my neighbor, after the second one, he comes over, he says, "You hear that?" Then everybody starts heading out, looking around, and we seen the smoke, and we walked down there, and at first you actually could get a whiff of it because it was blowing our way a little bit.
And just what he said, that is the major concern. He said you could actually get a whiff of it because it was blowing our way. And that's what all of the officials out here are trying to prevent happening, is people getting a whiff of those chemicals that are coming out of that plant, because they could be hazardous, and they want to make sure that it doesn't pose any more immediate threat to the people here in the surrounding area. But the fire's contained. No reports of injuries at this time. We're going to stay on top of it and provide more updates throughout the newscast. Back to you.
Mark, thank you. Our team coverage continues. Target 8 investigator Marley Ginter is looking through the company's past violations. And Marley, there are a few, including some fairly recent ones.
Sue, that is what we are learning right now. Those violations came down just 2 months ago, as early as April. This is what we're hearing right now. I want to show you some video that we took just as we arrived here on the scene. We checked in with the Department of the DEQ, and we have learned that they've had 26 violations since 1986. 3 of those violations came down in April. But this is something that I want to make clear right now, that those are minor violations that came down in April. What we are learning is that anything that happens at this plant can be considered a violation because of the strict regulations that the DEQ has on plants such as these. Now, this plant started up and running back in 1977. It is licensed to treat, store, and dispose of hazardous waste. We're talking about large amounts of hazardous waste, chemical and medical. They deal with 2 to 55-gallon containers out here. Now, I was just speaking with somebody with the Allegan County Sheriff's Department who at this point is saying that crews have been at the plant trying to figure out exactly what type of chemical they are dealing with today, and that is why we have seen the evacuations that we have seen at this point, a quarter of a mile north and east of the plant. Those people have been evacuated. There is an evacuation site set up right now at the Plainwell High School. That's where they're telling people to go. Now, we are working on learning more about this plant and any of the violations that it has had. I've also checked in recently with the EPA, also trying to see if they've had any problems with this plant as well. So stay with us, because we will be bringing you that as soon as we get some more information. Live in Plainwell, Marley Ginter, 24-Hour News 8.
Marley, thank you. Scott Corbin is the Emergency Management Director in Allegan County. He joins us right now by phone. Scott, thanks for joining us. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Go ahead.
How have you guys dealt with this plant in the past? Do you have a plan of action in case something like this happens?
Oh, sure. Yeah, every one of our facilities has a plan, especially at a local level. At this point, again, we're just evacuating for precautionary measures. There are there's some chemicals on site that we're a little unsure at this point. We're looking at some historical documentation, some records on the facility, so we can provide some guidance to the incident commander. But the incident commander has decided that it's important to, for the safeguard of the people and the residents in the area, to go ahead and evacuate that 1,120 feet or a quarter mile northeast of the facility.
Okay, quarter-mile northeast of the facility. They're being asked to go to the Plainwell High School. You talk about chemicals on site. What kind of chemicals are we talking about?
Well, they're volatile. They could be potentially volatile. Obviously, we're seeing some explosions take place, but that's not. That's pretty typical in a lot of fire scenes where there are chemicals present. But I guess I want to put out too is the streets that are being evacuated are Acorn Street, 2nd and Division, Parkway, Lincoln Parkway, and Wakefield Street. So we just make sure those residents are leaving their homes and going to the high school. There will be a Red Cross team set up there to help provide refreshments until such time they can return to their homes.
And is any residents complaining about being affected by the smell that they're reporting out there? Mark Thompson told us about some residents saying there was a smell in the air. Anybody complaining about any respiratory problems or anything like that?
No, not that we're aware of. It's certainly anytime you're dealing with a facility like this or any facility that's on fire, any home or residence on fire, you're going to have some kind of fumes coming from those. So until we know further, at this point, we don't believe that there's anything harmful. It's precautionary in nature, and we have no one at this point stating anything differently that they have any symptoms of any sort.
Those residents that are being asked to go to the high school that are being evacuated from the northeast section, a quarter-mile northeast of the plant, how long do they have to stay out of that area?
Good question. We're right now dispatching Ottawa County Hazmat team. We have a mutual aid agreement with them. We're asking them for their assistance, as well as the Battle Creek RRTN, Regional Response Team. We have also a regional agreement with them. We're asking both of those to deploy some assets to help us identify it, as well as we're requesting assistance out of Kalamazoo, the DEQ out of Kalamazoo, who also helps regulate these. So with that, we should have a good team on site to try and identify this as quickly as possible and move on.
Okay. We heard about possible explosions from residents around there. Any concern about any more explosions?
There's very, very possible that you'll see, depending on the heat within the building, but they have put out the fire within the building, or at least contain the fire within the building. That helps tremendously in keeping the volatility of those chemicals down. So I think we're okay at that point, but there are possibilities they could hear more explosions throughout the fire.
And do we know a cause at this point?
We don't. No, we probably won't know that for at least a few days.
Okay, Scott Corbin, Emergency Manager from Allegan County, thank you so much for your time. We'll continue to check back in with you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.